John, let's go first to this Iowa poll. It has Kamala Harris in front, still within the margin of error, as they say, but the point being made that this is not a state that was considered to be in play.
Well, that's right, Gemma, and I think the reason Donald Trump is escalating his rhetoric, his claims that there's already been cheating in this election is because he would be getting his own figures. Internal Republican polling may well be reflecting some of these public polls. That latest poll by the Des Moines Register and Seltzer Group, it's considered the most reliable each election cycle, and it is showing Kamala Harris at 47%. Donald Trump 44. It's not conclusive, and it doesn't mean that Kamala Harris is going to win this coming week's election, but certainly the late polling and the late polls seem to indicate that she's nudged ahead in Iowa, Michigan and Wisconsin. Pennsylvania is still too close to call. But if Kamala Harris wins Iowa, she'll therefore almost certainly win Michigan and Wisconsin, in which case she would be elected president almost certainly if those numbers hold. But it's getting very disturbing to hear increasingly the rhetoric of Donald Trump, and you're hearing more and more of his supporters now when they're interviewed, Vox Pops with Carrington and with Elias, they're saying things like, we will win, that Donald Trump will win unless it's stolen, unless there is cheating. And so I think Donald Trump is successfully sowing the seeds of doubt, which essentially are undermining democracy. Essentially, the argument Donald Trump is running that is, if I don't win, it's because it's been cheated. And it's quite amazing rhetoric, really. It's the sort of rhetoric you might normally hear from a 5-year-old child who might say, you know, if I go out, then it was a no ball.
And John, even before this Iowa poll, the ground was being laid for court challenges, wasn't it?
That's right. Donald Trump has been trying to build this case. Even the right-wing media here, even the media normally sympathetic to Donald Trump, isn't really taking this up at the moment. All the authorities, the electoral authorities, are strongly denying it. There is no evidence at all for it. But I think the concern here is, as we saw in 2020, is Donald Trump does have an ability to marshal a mob. We saw that at the Capitol in 2021 on January 6, and I think that certainly here the Department of Homeland Security is taking measures, has spoken to hundreds of communities around the place. They're reinforcing electoral offices in places like Pennsylvania with bulletproof glass and so forth. And so the authorities here, certainly in Washington DC, it's so heavily fortified, the Capitol, I don't think they could storm it again. But I think authorities are worried it may happen in other locations, although having said that, senior diplomats here are saying that at worst it might be sporadic violence. They're not expecting any sort of widespread upheaval.